forsake. A hand that feeds can also bind, but peace can free a restless mind. Fix the cracks, don't paint them bright. The world's not whole without the fight. So rise and speak, don't just comply. Change the script, don't live the lie. Counter this, counter that.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Counter This. How you doing today, David?
I'm doing quite swell. How are you?
Well, I'd complain if it got me anywhere, but it's been a nice Sunday, so it's actually like way warmer than it has been. So gonna take the dog on a walk later. Enjoy some of it until it's gone very quickly.
Yeah, this week I think.
Yeah,
At least for me. It's supposed to get colder this week again. So
Oh yeah, it's gonna go from like 60 this weekend to like 20 degrees on Monday. So I'm like, woo, that's gonna be fun. Working outside is awesome.
hey man, I've been working outside pretty much my whole life, so it is what it is. You just layer up. That's all you can do. You just layer up, and if you get too hot throughout the day, you can take layers off. That's the name of the game.
Oh yeah,
Really, this time of year, the only thing that really gets cold on me is going to be my face and my hands, mostly because I deal with a lot of water, so I can't really wear gloves unless they're all weather. But as a service technician, you also need your hands to be not all. They need to be kind of free a little bit, So
why would you want to use your hands? That sounds overrated. I'm kidding.
it is overrated. I mean, you got to use your hands for everything. What are you talking about? Even clicking buy and sell.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I just automate it. There you go. The robots can just let the robot do my job. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, we're hey, also, I just wanted to point out we're up to 27 subs. There's 27 of you that have subbed. None of you are here right now, which is fine. And maybe you'll catch the replay. It is Sunday after all. So yeah, we usually do this more consistently on Saturdays. But yeah, this is the 6th episode. What's that episode going to be about?
Well, it was originally going to be about how we get the financial interests out of the government. Crux was going to be our guest. He had David dropped for a second. We'll get him back here in a second. But it was going to be about getting financial interests out of government. Crux had to reschedule, so instead we are going to be going over how we build a better economy. You dropped for a second. Got you back up there.
Yeah, I got rugged.
It happens. We do have a few viewers over on X, though, so I appreciate y'all tuning on in
shout
today.
out to you guys.
Yeah, so today we're going to be going over how we build a better economy, which will kind of set us up for next week's episode with Crux of Crypto about how we get the financial interests away from politicians so they can actually serve us.
Damn right.
Well, I mean, that's the name of the game. They're supposed to be serving us, and it seems less and less and less that's what they actually do. So before we get to that, though, we kind of got to, figure out how we actually get a better economy, and then we can discuss how we get their financial interests out of there, because that's a big part of having your economy flourish.
I think there's going to be a little bit of a little bit more of an open and broad conversation. Not really much of a debate on this one, I think, because we're very similar when it comes to economics. So, um, yeah, so we'll get into the weeds and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. And but before we get to that, we got something else to do first.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been a little while since we've played a game before we started the show. So I've got a few quotes, and then I know that you pulled up a few quotes as well. Mine, instead of being a politician or a comedian, mine's a politician, an economist, or a comedian. So three
Oh,
levels of it. I've got
what? How is
five.
this fair? You did. How you gonna throw economist in there? I went with politician versus comedian. That's okay. That's okay.
Well,
I'll give you.
well,
We'll do politician versus comedian for you, and I'll get the harder ones. That's fine.
hey, some of these will be super easy to pick. It's like, okay, that's definitely an economist. But,
We'll
I've
see.
got three different levels of hardness as well. So, like, there's like some softball ones, and then it gets a little bit harder. So, we'll see how well you do, and we'll see how well I do.
All right.
Do you want to
Sounds
go
good. Let's
first?
go. Yeah. Quote: It's politician versus comedian. I'm not worried about the storms today. I'm worried about the people who pretend the sky is always clear.
I'm going to go comedian.
You would be correct. That would be the one late great George Carlin.
That definitely sounds like a Carlin quote.
Yeah.
So I've got one. I will go with an easier one. The economy is doing great, just not for anyone who actually lives in it.
Politician.
That was a comedian. That was Jon
I
Stewart.
figured. John Stewart. Wow. Okay. That sounds like a Stewart quote for sure. Let's see. Let's see. The hardest thing about leadership is convincing people you're calm while you're trying not to panic.
I'm definitely gonna go politician on that one.
Obviously, he's talking about leadership. It's JFK, John F. Kennedy.
Huh. I would not have expected that to be JFK though, honestly.
Well, we all
What?
have panic sometimes.
Well, he was definitely in a time where there was a bunch of panic too. So makes sense.
Facts.
Let's see. So I will step it up on the hardness just a little bit here. Let's go with this one. If you want more of something, subsidize it. If you want less of something, tax it.
I feel like I'm being tricked because that sounds like a politician. I'm gonna go politician.
It was my favorite.
Economist.
It was my favorite economist, Thomas Sowell.
Hmm. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Well,
So,
I can't skip out on the Sal. That's like a one of my favorites, and he like really really goes down that Austrian road of economics extremely hard. So if you haven't,
so well.
oh yeah, if you haven't read any Thomas Sowell, you definitely should. He is a great economist. So that's just my tidbit for today.
What's your opinion? I prefer Keynes.
He did so well. I mean, honestly, he did well, except for when it comes to politicians, and they were like, yeah. So like, we like this first half where we can just like borrow as much as we want, but like we don't like the second half where we gotta pay the debt back.
This is very true. All right, let's go on to let's just go ahead. Last one. Let's see. Last one for me. For you. The trouble with people is that they're always asking for honesty but can't handle accuracy.
Oh God. Well, that sounds like a politician, but it could definitely be a comedian. But I'm gonna go with politician.
It is a comedian, Norm Macdonald, the late great Norm Macdonald.
That's what I said. I said it could definitely be a comedian, but
Mm-hmm.
oh, I did 2 for 3 ain't bad.
That ain't bad. Let me get one.
Well, this one should be a little bit easier. This is an extremely old quote. The budget should be balanced, the treasury refilled, and the public debt reduced. But what do I know? I'm just dead.
What? I'm just dead?
Yeah. It's an extremely old quote.
I have no idea. Politician?
You would be correct. It is Marcus Siero from 55 BC in Rome. Like, yeah, old quote.
I thought we were doing just U.S. politicians. What the heck?
Taking it back. Taking it way back.
Way back. Well, you got to go back in history to understand today, right?
You most
To
definitely.
To understand today's landscape, even today's economy, you got to go back in history to see how things came to be and where we are now. And do we need to go back to something or completely reinvent the wheel? Whatever it is.
I don't know about reinvent the wheel. I think we know what works, but like it is not in the financial interests of those who run the world and the economy and the businesses to do what is fiscally responsible.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't rig
What's
the
up?
game if you got sound money. You can't rig the game if you can't buy politicians. You know.
Well, there's other ways to rig the game, but you can. It makes it harder, more difficult. I will say that. So what do we? All right, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. What do we consider a better economy? Are we talking about increasing wages? Are we talking about job growth, increasing margins, all the above, social
would say-
justice?
I would say it's a little bit of everything, you know. You can't have a better economy if you don't have wage growth. And that's the big part where we feel it as everyday people. But I'd also say you can't have a better economy if you don't actually have economic growth. So, you know, that's a big part of what we look at in today's society. It's like, how much did the economy actually grow? And that's one of the smaller parts of actually how you get a better economy. Just like your economy can grow unlimited, but like no one can be doing better. Because like we saw that in China, where it's like their economy grew at 5% a year, but like who actually benefited from it? When there's people that still don't have running water, you know?
What do we think about poverty? Do we
Well-
think it's inevitable, or
I mean, in some ways, yes. But like you can also raise the lowest bar, which is the biggest part. If you want a better economy, you need to raise the lowest bar. Like point blank. Because you're only as strong as the people who are doing the worst.
so are we considering a better economy being lifting a lot of people out of poverty? Are we considering the wealth gap?
I would definitely consider the wealth gap, but my ideal for having a better economy was what would be to lift the most people that are on the bottom rung up, and then go from there, you have your middle class, which would also rise accordingly. And then, yes, your top percent is going to raise as well, but it's not going to be as skewed towards just your top percent raising, because if your top percent raises but your bottom percent does nothing, then they're not going to be able to actually participate in your economy at the same rate to continue lifting up that 1%.
And you need to build from the middle out instead of top down or bottom up, middle out. And I think that's and I think that's definitely how you do it, because I mean, because you want to grow the median. You want that to expand. That way you're picking people up, but also you're kind of shifting a little bit of what's on top down too. And over time, as the middle grows up, that actually is kind of stabilizing more of that top end instead of it being such a, you know, broad difference. So how do we get there? Do we loosen up regulations? Let's just go ahead and start there. What do we do with our regulations? Do we how in an ideal BC Port Corp world, uh, do we even have regulations? Do we have light regulations? What should regulations address? Where do you think maybe we currently get them wrong? Um, yeah, I just want let's hear your thoughts on that.
So, I mean, I would have extremely light regulations. One of the biggest ones is going to be monopolies, because you cannot
Hmm.
have a free economy with trade all over if you don't actually have competition. So
Hmm.
I would lower the market share a bit on what an actual monopoly is. So that's going to be the biggest thing. It's like if you're an actual monopoly where you control it, I'd go somewhere around like 65%. So if you control
Of a
60,
market?
yeah, if you control 65% of a market share, then you're going to have to break your company up, and you're going to have to split it out, and you're actually going to have to compete against the rest of your company. I wouldn't. This would be more of a whole countrywide monopoly, whereas it'd be okay if you had more of a regional monopoly, because you'd
So
still have competition, which would drive prices down because you're competing against other areas of the United States, which would drive prices down.
is 65% some kind of math you've done, or is that kind of arbitrary, but just an example of a number, what that we could think of or that we could get to? So if we broke it all down, we would get to a certain number. Um, what I mean, is there a reason you picked 65%, or is that just, or is that something you just threw out
It's
there?
a little arbitrary, but also at the same time, when you start getting to above 70% market share, then you start squeezing other companies out from being able to compete at all. So like that's
Mm.
why I kind of chose that number. It's a little below that threshold where it like really starts squeezing out competition.
So you're not really a big fan of mergers, huh? Well, at least big companies acquiring smaller companies. Um, yeah, because I mean, and I agree with that, especially when it comes to mergers and stuff. You mergers, you got to allow them. Mergers can happen. Because they help produce, or help, yeah, well, produce better productivity and efficiency and lower prices in markets. That's when a merger can be beneficial. But when it's like, I don't know, Google, let's just say Google and Amazon merge, like we can't have that. Like that's absurd. Um, so, and the question is like, is there, I feel like there's some like backdoor way these companies are kind of all just, I say that, but then again, YouTube or Google and, well, I guess YouTube and Disney were just in like a contract dispute. because Disney's greedy AF, and I could say YouTube probably is too. But so I was without any of my ESPN for like 2 weeks, which sucked. But so I mean, there's obviously competition between those two companies, and that's the thing. Is there still competition in these markets, or is there not? Like, how much of a share of deliveries, package deliveries, does Amazon make up? Like compared to UPS?
Well, and so you would have to more compare that to it's like how much does Amazon have in comparison to Walmart? So it's like that's kind of what like
Mm-hmm.
brings down your market share because like Amazon forced Walmart to compete. So like now you're
Mm-hmm.
also lowering your market, your like overall market share. But if Walmart and Amazon were like, hey, you know, it'd be great if we like combined our companies, then it's like, yeah, hold on a second, you're absolutely going to destroy the rest of everything else, and no one's going to be able to compete. You can charge whatever you want, which reduces economic growth. You squeeze out all the other competition because you can just price them out. You could be like, well, we're just going to take a loss here so that you can't even take a step in the door.
To counter this, I'm trying to think what else go. Should hmm. I completely lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I apologize, people.
I mean,
Something.
it's just kind of something we've witnessed before in history, you know, at least
Mhm.
American history, where we had the Rockefellers, where you have a complete monopoly on the railroad system. Other people try to come in and compete. You price them out by like taking a loss, which they can't do. And if they do take the loss, now they're out of business. And then they come along and they're like, well, thank you for this railroad that you built. We're just going to take this over now. And so we've seen it happen, and like that's what can't be allowed, because that absolutely does destroy your economy.
So, how do you go about breaking a company up? So let's just say this company has they have they haven't really even cornered a market. Let's just say they're the only ones in the market. Um, and let's just something, whatever it is. Uh, and they're the only competition in town. Do we break them up just because they found something no one else wants to do, or to help generate that competition? And how do we go about breaking them up if that is the case? Like, do you go to find an investor or somebody that wants to do the same work? Like, how do you even go about that?
So like there's certain things where it's like it's not as big of a deal. Whereas like Nvidia, when they were the first people that made GPUs. So it's like, okay, you're making like something brand new. So it's kind of unfair to say that you have a monopoly. But until other competition gets in the game, then you can't really like track that out. As opposed to it's like, okay, well, say grocery stores. Grocery stores is way easier. And where you could do that, which is kind of already how it's done by these companies in general, is you just sort it out by regions. It's the same thing that they did with electricity, where there was a monopoly on electricity. They broke it down by regions. You get this region. Oh, he dropped again. That's he's getting rugged. He will be back in just a second. But you break it out by regions so that each region is forced to compete with each other. Let's see if he actually gets back in real quick. That is definitely different. Let's see. Let me shoot him a message real quick. There we go. He is back. I did, I don't know what happened. He got rugged again.
I guess so. Broke it down by regions.
So you break it down by regions first, and it's something we saw with kind of grocery. We see it with gas stations and grocery stores, where it's like instead of stepping out of their local region, you have regional grocery chains, which help compete against Walmart, but also help drive prices down across the United States. Same kind of thing with gas stations. Gas stations came to their own agreement, though, where it's like, we're not going to step on your toes in this region, and you're not going to step on our toes in this region. So it's kind of broke out by sections. That's why you don't see like certain gas stations in certain areas where, like, I know we don't have 7-Elevens up here. Well, they're not really allowed up here. So that's like a big thing that where it kind of keeps them from having to get into that situation with the government where it's like no one has a monopoly, but all together because we have a more regional monopoly, we drive prices down across the board.
I don't know that I even like regional monopolies. You gotta think of, well, wasn't wasn't healthcare kind of divided up by region
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something else?
Uh,
Insurance, car insurance.
so like there was car insurance for a while. That's kind of been negated a bit. Health insurance as well, which it's kind of been negated with the government stepping on in. Now it's more like
Because who are
a
you really competing with if it's regional? Like, who cares? You know how big a region is in the U.S. Like,
yeah, but like
it
what it also does is it helps provide efficiency for that region. So instead of having it where, like, okay, well, you're the most efficient gas station, you've now completely controlled a region, but it doesn't squash anyone else from stepping up because it's like where I used to be in the South. 7-Eleven was huge. You know who came in and absolutely demolished them? Circle K. So it doesn't exclude other regional monopolies from happening, and it actually still allows for competition. Whereas if you had a completely United States wide monopoly, then no one can really compete because you control the prices.
just like what is it called? Oh, universal healthcare. Anyways, um, yeah. So better economy. So you said light regulation, um, as it pertains to monopolies. What about consumer protection?
So, and that would be the other area. The only real other area I'd kind of want, whereas we directly control whether or not your product reaches the people regarding the safety of those people. So if your product is unsafe for people, that's when the government would kind of be like, no, 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 we're not going to allow you to kill the consumer. But other than that, you kind of like mitts off, where if you allow the companies to regulate themselves over time, they're going to find the most efficient way to do something. Whereas it's like, how do we? Other areas would be like, gas again, where it's like, okay, well, we want cleaner gas. You might have to step in on that, but then over time, they're going to find a better way to do energy production. With instead of using gasoline, they're gonna use something else.
Can you think of, off the top of your head, a regulation that you disagree with?
So one of those is a giant portions of the EPA.
Hmm.
There's the inability to produce some goods here in the United States because the EPA just won't allow us to say mine, where we could completely mine some of our own materials. It has completely squashed our market, and now you're relying on some place like China to give you minerals for drugs or for electronics and things like that. When instead you could have a more flourishing market, you could drive prices down by actually having competition instead of having someplace like China do 97% of our rare earth minerals and minerals in general processing.
Do we have a lot of rare earths in the U.S.?
Yeah.
like that
So
are in demand.
I mean, so we have one of the big ones is going to be for magnets for electronics. It's yttrium.
Mm.
We have a decent amount when you go to the West Coast. It's more found in mountainous regions, and now you would have to allow these companies to actually mine it. Yes, it is a more ugly process, and that's why the EPA doesn't allow it.
Mm. And you think that would be a good thing?
I mean, in certain ways, it's like you're talking about you put a lot of this back when you're done, but we're now completely dependent on another country which hasn't shipped any yttrium to us in 6 months.
Hmm.
So, what's better? The fact that we make the earth a little bit ugly in the mountain regions of the Rockies.
Oh, that's what you meant by ugly. I thought you meant like the whole like process of doing whatever you got to do to get what you need, like dirty, just dirty energy being used. But we don't have to use dirty energy, right, to get this stuff.
No, no. So like the process itself is not pretty. So like yes, there is a little bit of pollution that you'll have to deal with because you are having to go below the silica layer, but the EPA doesn't really allow for strip mining in general because it is a more ugly process. It is kind of hard on the landscape, but once you're done with the process, you can like make it green again. You know, you put the dirt back, you put a little bit of effort in to actually make it all flourish again, and
The
it
next
can be
Trump is
done.
going to be "Make America Green Again."
Hey, I wouldn't argue with that, but first, you know, there's certain things that we would have to do. Like a you've got lion shares of like oil. Instead of oil being sold for like cars, we're now selling oil products to spray on crops. That'd be a big way to
Mm.
make America green again. If we stop doing that, which is illegal in like all the rest of the world, but here in the United States, we're like, yeah, go ahead, spray that poison on those plants that people are gonna eat.
Yeah, just like the red dye that we just now finally banned.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
been illegal in the EU for years.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, what are we doing here?
So it's
um,
like those are regulations I'm okay with, where it's
mhm.
actually consumer safety. But like what you can't do is regulate consumer safety to the point where you're now dependent and you're destroying the market because if one place decides, "Hey, we just don't want to sell you this good anymore," then you're screwed.
Mm, yeah, I agree. So definitely agree on cutting back on regulations, particularly ones that just don't make sense, um, and ones that stifle competition, stifle innovation, and like I understand people wanting to put some guardrails on AI. Um, at the same time, well, let's be real here. The government's been working on AI for quite some time,
Yes, since
and
the 80s.
yeah, so it's like they've got their own thing going on. So I don't think they're going to stifle themselves at all. So, but when it comes to public AI companies and the public, really global new AI economy, because I think that's where we're likely heading towards. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Um, do you see AI creating a lot of growth? We know that we will be able to be more productive on certain things, but it's really right now is kind of more just efficiency. It's more administrative, getting rid of a lot of tasks that just frankly can be automated. Um, and because, believe it or not, automation has killed more American jobs than China. That's just that's just a fact because robots take people's jobs. It's just what they do. So the more you advance in technology, the more those jobs get lost, and then you got to think of new ways to create new jobs, and and we always do. We always do, right? It's like every 80 years or so, 80 to 100 years, we go through like a little paradigm shift in technology and through politics and war and stuff like that, and we come out better on the other side. And the last one being, World War II and the Industrial Revolution, you know, and we just go through all that stuff. And, people are always worried about what are we going to do when the AI takes our jobs? It's like, well, we'll find something else. There's always work to be done. So the economy always, especially in a free market, the economy will always go to where there's demand for something. And you've got to, and the only way to increase growth, I mean, I'm sure there's other asides, but the main way to increase growth is to increase demand. You've got to have that demand there for someone to want to even break into a market. You can't, there's a lot of people that are like, well, this market's way too saturated. I'm like, well, if it's too saturated, then that means there's a demand for whatever that is. So it's kind of like you've got to figure out, is it too saturated, or is it just, or do you have too much competition and you don't think you can break in? And then that's where you got to innovate and you figure out ways to put yourself to make a name for yourself. Point is, we need growth. How do we get growth, especially going into an AI economy? And for me, it's like, well, there's tons of jobs that you can do that can be created with AI as well. There's people, businesses that pay for pre-created AI agents, or they get someone to create them, an AI agent to do certain tasks. And that's what people do. People are already doing that. It's very small niche. Might want to think about getting into it if you're a little younger, or you're just out of work and need something to do. Learn AI. Businesses can use your AI expertise. How to prompt right, can you write me a script because you know how to prompt write? Whatever it is, there's so many different things that you can do with AI that can create new jobs. It's just, well, right now, it seems like the focus is on just building out the infrastructure for AI, and which is fine because that's where the economy, if we're going to build an AI economy, that's where the economy kind of needs to shift for the moment. Have your little entrepreneurs, but we also need a construction for the build out and all that stuff. But anyways, I've been talking for a minute now. So what are your thoughts? How do we grow the economy? How do we grow wages? All that stuff, especially considering the AI future economy.
So, I mean, I think it's going to push demand back to the simple things again. Where it's like, just because AI exists doesn't mean people aren't going to need food still. They're going to need food. That's going to be a more prevalent thing. You're also going to still need to build homes. You're still going to need to maintain these homes. You're still going to need to repair cars. You're still going to need all of these other sectors. And you're going to, instead of being pushed towards office jobs, which has been the giant push the past 40 years, where it's like, go to college, get a degree so that you can sit in an air-conditioned office. Mm-hmm. And now it's going to be pushing back the direction we came from, where it's like we're going to need people to work with their hands. You're going to need people that build the stuff for AI. You're going to need the people that mine these materials. It's like these are the jobs that we pushed away from because, it's not pretty and we can have the third world do that. But like you want to lift people out of poverty? Manufacturing is a very strong way that you lift people out of poverty. You know how we know that? Look at India. Look at China. Look at Vietnam. These are all places that had no real economy, just started manufacturing, and you watched the level of poverty increase over just the past 40 years. I'm
The
not saying
level of poverty increase.
yeah, so like not the bar of the like so instead of being down here, now you're up here and more people can actually participate in your economy. I don't know why it keeps dropping them out today. Rugged all over again. I'm sure he'll be back in just a second though. Well, there he is. It doesn't like you today, sir. But
Now I know. Just refresh and it'll be back. There you go.
so that's one of those things that really does lift you out. And like, we are America and we have a bigger economy and things like that. So we don't necessarily have to perform all tasks. It's like we don't necessarily have to make clothes, but like we can make certain items. Whereas instead of having like high-end production of shoes over in Italy, why can't we do that here? People need shoes. People need good shoes. And like the amount of money that is made off of shoes is something we could definitely push for here. Whereas it's like we don't need to necessarily make a t-shirt because t-shirts aren't that expensive and like that's not necessarily a manufactured good that needs to be made here in America. But like you talking about electronics, that is definitely a manufacturing niche that could be done here. So it's like these are the kind of things that you need to focus on as AI takes away some of those jobs. You're going to have that push back towards sectors we tried to leave because, like eventually the AI can do it. But, we're still going to, it's, yeah. Well, it's like let's see the robot climb the roof and roof. It's like we're still gonna need roofers.
hmm Yeah, there's a lot that they've got to be able to move around, like be completely mobile and autonomous, and be able to go from job to job. Like if you're in the service industry, like it's. I think we're quite a ways away from this stuff.
Oh yeah,
One
I
of
mean,
the one of the
I
best
sent you.
robots can like barely hold, pick anything up, like 'cause it's just
Well, I sent you that.
heavy.
I sent you that video where the robot couldn't even walk up the stairs. He like was like going towards the stairs, and then he just like hits the stairs and starts like flopping like a fish.
Dude, it's
Like
so
yeah,
it's so crazy because those videos, man, that those robots, they almost don't even like every time I see one of those videos, I'm like, is this CGI? But it's not. It's so weird. And then I saw another one, China. What was the name? G X Ping X something. I don't know what it was.
Xpeng.
You saw the video of them release their robot and how it was just like smooth walking like crazy. Like what, dude? They like cut it open because people didn't believe that it was actually a robot.
But I mean, so it was smooth walking, but it's extremely slow. And it's like not very like quick and efficient. Whereas a human could do a task quicker than that robot could. So it's like we've still got a gap in technology, hardware wise, as opposed to what these machines can do. Whereas it's a simple test. If it's a simple
Yeah,
task,
like we can do this over and over and over. We can do this over and over, over and over and over. I mean, yeah, these wear out, but that takes like decades. Whereas on a robot, that's gonna wear out, and then you got to replace that. Guess what? There's a job now. There's a job. Someone to fix your robot.
Yep. Well, it's like you see the robot areas that have been taken over in manufacturing. It's the simple repetitive tasks where it's like Elon Musk and building cars, where it's like
stationary.
yeah, we're gonna take this part from here on this track and we're gonna move it over to this track. And like the robot is good at extending the arm and twisting the screw. Or like we can stack these bags on a pallet extremely efficiently, but you still need a person there because the robot's going to mess up.
Indeed. Yeah,
Cool.
the robots will mess up until they don't. Well, what do you think? What about AGI? Well, anyway, no. That's getting off on a whole other tangent. All right, so what was our growth conclusion? How do we get growth?
So I mean, one of the biggest ways that you're going to get growth is minimal regulations, the control of monopolies, and sound money. We completely skipped over that one because it's like without sound money, the rest of this becomes really pointless because it's like we can just steal your growth anytime we want by printing more money. And that's a very destructive part to our current economy. It's something that doesn't get talked about on like very much, but the money supply has absolutely exploded since 2008, and that was just to keep things from collapsing. But like maybe it would have been better if these big banks had failed, and you had people that were more regional banks that didn't take these massive risks to make a massive gains kind of step up to the forefront, where it's like your local branch that like you get paid out in interest because you're loaning to other people in your general area. Like that would have been so much better. Instead of having national banks, you just have these regional banks kind of step up and take control of their regions. Sometimes things need to, crap the bed. Same with like the car industry. 2009, if your car companies had just gone out of business, I mean, it's not pretty, but like now you have the opportunity for massive growth and actual innovation in the space, instead of it's like, well, Ford made its new Fusion. Here's the 15th year of the Ford Fusion. I hope you like it. Like, what did you do that was different?
We made it a little smoother on the side here. We took about 1/16 of a 1/16 of an inch off, and now we're more aerodynamic. It's like, all right, bud, if you say so.
Yeah, and it's like that's a big thing. Whereas, like, instead of letting companies fail because they're too big to fail, no one's too big to fail.
Yeah, well, the bankers, they didn't. Not one of them saw jail time. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure a lot of them got bonuses, or they got bailed out, and they used the bailout to pay themselves a bonus. It's like, all right, cool. This is what we're doing. I don't know how we let them get away with that as a people, as a society. Like, that's just absolutely crazy to me that we didn't go for their heads. Not talking. I'm not theoretically or figuratively. YouTube, don't censor. Metaphorically. Yeah, I don't know, man. So yeah, light regulation. What do you think about? What do you think about? I mean, it's pretty obvious. We're both free market economists, or free market thinkers, believers, and just want to know: do you think there's? No, I don't know about that one. What do you think about tariffs?
Depends on how they're used, Whereas, like, if you have a tariff that has an end goal where, like, the tariff is for now to, like, have an actual purpose, or, like, the ones we're using now, where it's to force these companies back into America that fled America through 2008 through 2012. That there was a mass fleeing of America to position themselves in areas where you have cheaper labor and you headquarters your company there so that money never actually comes into the United States to be taxed and things like that. So it's like, yeah, I'm okay with the tariff there. It does make things more expensive in the long run, but in the short term, but in the long run, you're now forcing companies back into America to make American jobs. And at the end of that all, then you take the tariff off and the goods are cheaper because they're produced here in America, and you actually have money that's circulating here in your country that's not going somewhere else to be spent somewhere else to do
Well,
something else.
it's not necessarily that they're cheaper. It's that your wages should increase. And
Which, and I mean, it's like it's cheaper and because of growth, because the thing that we negate all the time is like the velocity of money. Whereas in the quicker money moves around in your own economy, the more actual growth you're going to get and the cheaper things end up being. But once you have these more global economies where now companies flee outside and that money never makes its way back to change hands, you decrease the velocity of money and you actually destroy growth. You have growth elsewhere that absolutely brings you no benefit at home, where more $100 bills exist outside of the United States than exist in the United States. That's wrong. That's not how it should be.
is that true?
Yes. Look it up. It's crazy. We have more $100 bills outside, like physical cash. We have more $100 bills that exist outside of the United States than exist inside of the United States. Why?
Oh, that's
Oh,
because we're digital.
no, because we ship physical dollars out, and they never make their way back, and that's not how it's supposed to be. That destroys the velocity of money. Whereas if you want actual growth, money needs to change hands in your local economy.
Ooh.
You don't need more money. You
Yes.
need higher velocity.
Yes, but also, if we're talking specifically about the United States dollar, then we're also talking about the world reserve currency. And this is where the Triffin dilemma comes into play. Because if you don't be in the world reserve currency, that means you've got to get your money out there. Like, you just have to. If stuff's just circulating around the globe, who cares if that $100 bill doesn't come back? Because it's still the world reserve asset, and people are still using it as their own store of value. Now, what does that do for us? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I think ever since we started, well, really since 1971, since we came off the gold standard, I want everybody to go out there. I want them to look at the chart of wages, and I want them to see when wages started to stagnate. There's
When
no
housing
coincidence. It was right around.
when Yep, and then also look at the chart. When did housing prices explode? When did inflation start exploding? When did your M2 start exploding? All of these have a correlating date.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that something? It's kind of weird. It's weird how that
It-
works. Everybody's like, I remember the good old days. It's like, yeah, you remember a gold-backed currency is what you remember.
Well, and
I
that's
remember
why
that too. No, I
that's
don't.
why I said that a sound money policy is more of like the backbone to being able to do any of these other things. Well, it's like that doesn't mean that you don't like. In some ways, depending on how you set up your money, your currency, it could inhibit some growth, and that's why like we've been in this cycle here where it's like you need more money to make more growth when that's false. You know, you just divide the currency that you have further down so you don't decrease. Like you make the denomination smaller, but you're buying like the buying pressure that you have, the buying power that you have stays the same, even with the smaller denotion.
Outside of regulation and tariffs, is there any other way that you can see the government's a government needs to be involved in the economy?
So I would go back to what the
Taxes
founders.
is
Mm. I mean, taxes probably more minimal, whereas I would say taxes would be more for the basic things that the government should do, like a well enforced border and things like that. Uh, Probably more like interstates, roadways. But the biggest part I would say would be interstate commerce. And that's where the federal government should actually be playing a part in our economy. Where it's like you should be making these states actually trade with each other. So you increase the velocity of money, you share it around instead of having California pay out the butt for taxes so that Mississippi and Arkansas and like all these other states that don't really have a thriving economy, and instead of just paying for them to have kids go to school and healthcare and things like that, force their economy to grow, actually force interstate commerce, where it's like you have all of this money that's coming in through the ports. So like now we need to figure out how to have this money exchange hands instead of the money go to the government and like a small percentage of it go to the states.
I agree. They're not gonna get much disagreement out of me on this topic.
Well, it's like it makes sense because like the more you subsidize something, and it's like yes, you see more of it, but it's not necessarily like more efficient, and you also have less competition in that thing. You also have less actual innovation in that area. Whereas like we just subsidize the basic. And so now there's no actual economic flourishing in that area. Whereas instead, if you forced money to go around instead, now you're forcing actual competition and innovation. Now we're trying to compete for that dollar to come from California to come to here because we did something so amazing.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, all right, let's let's loosen some things up to allow more freedom amongst people. For me, it's like small businesses, they need the lightest regulation. It should not be that difficult. It should not be difficult at all, and shouldn't be that expensive to start a business, depending on the business. But you could start anywhere. You can start doing anything. You can go around cleaning dog poop out of people's backyards. You can do all kinds of things. You can do leaves. You can do lawns, and then work your way up to something else. Build just build this company. I mean, it's going to take time, but then you can just turn around and sell it to someone else, to the highest bidder. Especially once you lock down, just a pretty good chunk of a market, and then you can just go from there and just build from that. Or you could just keep going in the industry that you're in, whatever you want to do. But I highly, especially in an AI economy, I highly recommend uh, entrepreneurship. I think more people need to get into entrepreneurship, because I do think that it's just competition, man. It's and which is what you need. You need more competition. You need more people not being worker bees and being owners, taking risk. You've got to have it. You've got to have it. And I don't know. There. I feel like there's going to be such a boom with the AI stuff, and it's just and everything right now that this administration is trying to do is just trying to shore up a lot of stuff and prepare for that future move. And because we're gonna have to, and there will be pain. There will be some economic pain involved. But you got to go through the bust, just like you're gonna have your booms. You're gonna have your bust. That's just how it goes. Now, in an actual like pretty free market, and with sound money, don't tend to get as much boom and bust. It's more level. You will have your breakouts, you will have your drawdowns, but they probably won't be as extreme. Uh, but I mean, as long as debt is a thing and margin is a thing, you're still gonna get some extreme volatility on things. But yeah, I mean, this is a topic that probably needs way more than 1 hour, and I'm sure we'll have future episodes on the topic. Kind of, we kind of got a good baseline here. I mean, we kind of went over pretty much almost everything. We went over
Oh yeah.
regulation. We went over, well, there's one thing we could save this for another day is monetary policy slash Fed reform or abolishment. Uh, Wealth plus ownership democratization. Encourage policies that promote equity ownership among workers.
See, and
Actually,
that's one I
I
think needs to
actually
go for its own.
I've been saying this recently, and I'm like, do you realize how much more people would care about the companies that they work for if the owners gave them a share of the company? Why not? Why don't we do that?
Well, it's like we got away from it. Whereas in like back in the 80s, that used to be a big thing. You know, that like it used to be that 70% of Apple was owned by Apple employees. That is not the case anymore. So it's like
Mm-mm.
it used to be the like, and Steve Jobs said it, where it was like your first job at Apple is to Apple, and the second job that you have is to your boss. Like the first person you answer to is Apple, because you are a part of this company. You are the company. You owned the company. And now that's less and less the case. And like I do think that that's a big part that will help things. But like I said, I think that needs to be a whole episode in itself. Whereas like I know we talked about, we should probably do a whole episode on housing, because that's a big part of the economy. But like that's such a complex topic that you can't throw it into something like this and have an hour long discussion.
Yeah, each one of these could be its own freaking hour-long conversation, whether it's regulation or monetary policy or the whole ownership stuff, yeah, whatever it is. It's just like every single thing could be its own freaking discussion, because there's a lot to it. But like the general consensus that we have is lower taxes because people have their own money and they get to spend it. What does that do? That boosts demand. What does that do? Forces companies to produce more. What else does that do? Create more jobs because they've got to hire more people so that they can produce more. What does that mean? More people are getting money. What does that mean? More demand, and it's just its own little feedback loop. And
Yeah. I would
yeah,
also
that's
say
what we got to get to.
with the decrease of taxes, you need to have the privatization of more industries. So instead of the government coming in here and being like, well, you're a federal contractor, that could be a private company that actually produces a good, that actually employs people and is now growing and is forcing more demand. And there's an actual, like, it's part of the feedback loop instead of it's like, well, this is how much money you get every single year. That doesn't help growth at all.
Mm-mm. I agree. All right, BC. I think that's going to wrap it up for this one.
Most definitely. We will have to dive further into this. So, this will definitely be a multi part series in the whole Counter This series. So, we will dive further into the economy next week's. Tune in. It will be on Saturday, like normal, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have Crux of Crypto on here, and we'll be talking about the most important part of how you actually get economic growth, and that is going to be removing financial interests from politicians and making them work for ourselves again, so that we can actually, cause growth in our everyday economy instead of them choosing who the winner is.
Yep, I agree. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go watch some football and continue cleaning up the house a little bit and enjoy the rest of my day. And I hope you all that are watching this, whether in the chat or watching the playback, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. And let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Let us know what you think about the how you think we can build a better economy, one that works for more people, and not just not just a few. So that's pretty much that's all I got. BC had fun, and I look forward to the next one, man.
Same here. Thanks for joining. Everyone in the chats. We got 3 viewers over on X today, and we've got 3 over on YouTube as well. I know it's not a normal day, so that kind of limited some of the viewership. So
They're watching football.
I know it's hard to compete with that. So thank you for everyone that tuned in live. Thank you for everyone watching on the replay. Go ahead and give us that thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Share it on out so that we can spread this message a little bit further, because there's a lot of topics to go over, and we want to try to come up with some solutions that everyone can get behind and we can actually enact as a people together so that things can work better for us instead of against us.
Gals.
I'm with that one. But until next time, make sure to have an amazing rest of your weekend and touch some grass, because, there's a little more time in the year to do so before we start getting some snow. Peace out.
Counter this, counter that. Freedom's more than tit for tat. Words can build or words can break. Speak the truth for all our sake. A hand that feeds can also bind, but peace can free a restless mind. Fix the cracks, don't paint them bright. The world's not whole without the fight. So rise and speak, don't just comply. Change the script, don't live the lie. Counter this, counter that.